With latest releases here, is it a hit or is it a miss? Let's find out. Hey, what's going on, guys? We're here with the latest release from Time Machine Nations for the Dragon Ball S.H Figuarts line. It's the first Dragon Ball Super release that we've had in quite a while, and well, yeah, it's hit. So this has been a pretty anticipated figure for a lot of people, and I know a lot of you are hyped about the whole hand in pocket gimmick that he has, so we'll give that a good look in a moment. But first, let's take a look at the box. Now this was a premium bundle release in Japan, and since it's a Japan release, we've got the silver toy sticker. So depending on the region where you're buying this from, this colour will change. So if you're importing from Japan and it's got silver, it's a good sign. Also, if you're new to collecting, check out the Time Machine Nations quality seal. These are kind of stickers that I put in their figures to kind of help stop kind of the bootleggers getting through. So if you've got that sticker on there, it's a good sign that it is going to be a legit figure. If you're watching this from far in the future. Anyway, on the back here we've got the nice selection of posing that he comes with, highlighting the hand in pocket, and then also the key effect as well. And then just on the side there, some close-up shots of his faces. He's got a couple of faces that look pretty much identical actually, so we'll get a closer look at that shortly. But yeah, that covers for the box. So without further delay, let's find out if this is going to be a hit or a miss of a release. So before we pop him out and get a good look at his articulation, let's go through the accessories he comes with. And being a premium bundle, yeah, he's pretty stacked actually, it's great. So we've got the base face on him, and then there's one extra face here which looks very much identical, but this one's a bit more of a frowning. He's a bit more kind of pissed off look. You've got the full on angry screaming face and the teeth gritting. And then we've got his key effect, and then the attachment for the key blast, which pops into the key and then goes around his wrist, which is really cool design. And then on the top here, if you're unhappy with his large pecs, you can replace him with a smaller one. And then we've got the selection of hands as well. So we've got, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs, plus one extra open-handed right hand as well. And then on the left and right bottom, we've got the extra trench coat parts with the hand attachment, I guess, socket. Yeah, so that's all for his accessories. So let's pop him out and have a good look at his articulation. Okay, so here he goes in all his glory, and I guess I should start this off with kind of saying that, yeah, I'm not a Dragon Ball Super fan, and this character particularly does nothing for me. But I'll try and get this as unbiased as possible, and mainly just, yeah, give my opinion on what I think about the figure itself, and not necessarily the design or the character and the actual representation of him. So yeah, now that that's out of the way, let's get a bit of a closer look. The first thing that really sticks out to me is how thin these are, which is really nice. So these actually pop off. So these have a little bit tiny peg and a peg hole in his waist where these pop in, so we'll get a closer look in a moment, but for now let's pop these off. Okay, so we've got his here, semi-naked. We've taken the flaps off his pants, just to give us a full range of motion and view for his legs. So one thing you'll notice when you do pop off, there is a bit more of a bigger gap in his waist there, and it does give him a really good range of motion, and that is normally covered when you have his flaps on. It gets his belt up. So that's pretty good. Then his chest as well, he's got the ab crunch there, which comes up and over, which is nice. So he's got fantastic range of motion there. And same for his legs, he's got excellent range. It reminds me of a recent Jujutsu Kaisen figures actually, with the ankles and leg motion, which is great. Since often the Dragon Ball figures, due to the bigger muscles and leg joint and connections, you get a bit more of a restricted movement, but this guy, really good. And the same for his splits as well, he can get some decent range there. It looks pretty similar to the recent 2.0 Piccolo. Okay, now moving on to the arms. This is pretty much similar to a lot of other figures, just since it is a bit more slender, you do have a bit more range of motion there, which is quite nice. The shoulders do come out decently far, A little bit more motion would have been quite nice, but I believe that's what the second chest plate is for, the slightly narrower one, so we can actually pop this off. Okay, yeah, so that's a bit better, get a bit more range of motion there without the chest plate. So if we put the other one on, we should be able to get a decent range as well. Let's just pop this back on for a moment. Okay, so his elbow has a fantastic range of motion there, he can get all the way up and over, which is great. And then his shoulder pads is actually really cool as well. These have a nice double hinge in there, so you can pop down and up. So depending on the pose you're in, these don't restrict his movement at all, actually, that I've noticed so far, which is great. And since they're firmly attached, you don't have to worry about them falling off as well, which is a great bonus. Okay, so now onto the head and neck. The motion and range he has is slightly limited due to the collar. That will kind of block it a little bit when you swivel him around. But besides that, it's not too bad. He can get up and down decently far, which is nice. And again, you can sort of twist it around. It's just if you kind of want to have him looking down and over, it does get a bit more restricted due to his neck and the collar. And as you can see, when you have the head off, his neck and inner joint does have a decent range of motion. And for the inside of the head is pretty standard. Okay, so let's have a little wee talk about the way the flaps attach. And as you'll notice here, there's a kind of a rectangle peg hole on either side of his body, and that is just where they slot in. And for the flaps themselves, it's very thin rubbery material. It moves really good. If you've got like Satan, or can't remember who else has some of these actually, but there's been a couple of figures that have this type of a rubbery skirt, trench coat, sort of cloth armor on them, and it really restricts their movement. It kind of stops them from being able to spread their legs. But yeah, this really solves that issue. It's pliable, moves, it's light, and they can pop on and off. And the peg itself is part of rubber, so even that will move and bend, so you can get it out of the way. It's fantastic. And yeah, easy to attach. Just find the hole. So yeah, once it's slotted on, it stays on there. So if we put the other one on as well, once it's on, the belt covers the top part of it, and that will hide the crack that we had before, where you can see underneath his torso and above his hip. And yeah, they attach extremely well. They're not really loose at all. So one worry that I guess quite a few people might have been having was how loose are these, will they fall off? And yeah, if you shake him, move him around, doesn't fall off, it's good. So even when you're spreading his legs, it spreads out, and since it's not strong, it doesn't pull the legs back in. One figure that I was playing with recently was Jiraiya from the Naruto line. Similar style, he's got his clothing with rubber. You couldn't really move his legs out at all. As soon as you move out, I just bring it back in. It's a real pain in the ass, but this solves it. It's fantastic. So yeah, that's probably my favourite feature of this figure actually. Just the way that they've made these. Okay, so next thing we'll do, we'll check out the key blast, and then we can switch these out to the hands and pocket look. Okay, so we've got hit set up now, and I've switched out the hand. So for me, he's doing his key blast. And speaking of which, I've got the effect here and the attachment. So the key blast itself has a tiny little bit peg hole, and that just slots onto the attachment. So with the attachment, you can see there's a little wee U shape that just hooks around the wrist. And now Hit is just simply holding the key blast in front of his hand. And depending where you want to look at the figure from, you can just swivel this around. And it hides the connector extremely well. I think it's a fantastic design. Hopefully we get some more effects like this in the near future. Okay, so I've prepped Hit here by removing his hands and taking his trench coat flaps off. And here go the two additional ones to go on. On the inside there is a L and an R, so you know which side they will attach on. But for these ones at least it's pretty easy, since the hand is on the front part of them. So the trench coat hand part, well, it just looks like a normal hand attachment. It's just that it's part of the actual trench coat. So to attach these, all we have to do is just use the peg that's on them here to go into those slots that we saw on his waist earlier, and then you just push the hand into the joint. As simple as that. Okay, so there we have it. As simple as that. Very simple and effective. It looks fantastic. It really does look like he's got his hands in his pockets. They really pulled this off extremely well. Because we can see some little bit gimmicks and accessories like this for other figures in the near future. And yeah, while his arms are on here, he does have some decent range of motion as well. You can kind of angle his hands in and around to get his elbows back a bit more. When they are attached to their hands, you have to be a bit more careful because it might actually pop them out of the joint a little bit there. But yeah, overall, very effective. Anyway, let's take a closer look at all the different heads that he comes with. Okay, so with his head, starting with the one that he comes with, it's a slightly frowning, just straight looking face there. Overall looks really good. The eyes and the lines in there very crisp and sharp. It looks absolutely fantastic, I reckon. And yeah, the rest of the head just, yeah, looks good. For the second head, this one is very similar to the first, but it's just a little bit more angry. It's pretty subtle, but as you can see, the right side of his lip is dipping down a bit more, and his eyes are a bit more squinting. So it's a very subtle difference, but again, I think it's an effective look. His screaming face looks very good. The raised eyebrow, the mouth open, his teeth showing, it looks extremely good. I think this is probably one of my favourite heads that he comes with. No, in saying that, his kind of teeth gritting one there, his eyes in this one, and the eyebrows and the sculpting around there looks really nice. Okay, so we have our favourite Saiyan Rays on Earth Goku here for our size comparison. Yeah, just looking at them straight away, you'll notice there's quite a bit of a size difference in them. While Hit is a skinny guy, he is pretty tall, and that does show. But yeah, there is a very noticeable difference in body mass and I guess, yeah, proportions. But I guess that's a little bit to do with the areas that these characters were designed in as well. But anyway, let's swing them around to the side, get a better look. So yeah, Goku's shoulders are under his shoulder blades roughly. Though Goku's hair really does make him look quite a bit taller with this big tuft here. Okay, so that covers all his accessories, articulation, and yeah, even a bit of a size comparison. So I guess it's down to the final thoughts and my own opinion on this figure. So taking away the fact that I'm not a fan of the character in general, he just kind of, yeah, doesn't do anything for me. But from a figure standpoint, I'm actually really surprised. I do like him. He's really nice. The hands and pocket works extremely well. The fact that they've gone for a very thin, malleable material, plastic for his trench coat works extremely well, and it still blends into the rest of the figure. Yeah, the colours that they use looks really good. I like the dark green with the grey, looks nice, and even with that purple is good. The lining and sculpting on the faces, as I was mentioning before, are extremely good as well. So yeah, I'm actually having a hard time coming up with a negative for this figure. I guess the main negative is I just don't like him as a character, and in terms of design and yeah, in general. But I guess it's probably more of a design issue than the actual figure, but I'm not a big fan of his boots. They just kind of seem like giant clunker of a shoe. Considering the rest of his boots and the trench coat and everything is a lot more stylized and textured, it would have been quite cool if the shoes as well had something similar to that. But that's not exactly a fault of the figure. The only other thing I guess is the belt and the waist where it covers up these armor flaps. While it does work really well, I can see maybe in the future, if you use it a lot or move it around, the joints and the pegs that these use might get a bit loose and might fall off easier and then what it is when it's brand new. So that could be a potential problem going forward in the future. And depending on the pose when you do have your hands in the skirt, you are a bit more limited with the posing you can do with the angles, because depending where you put it, it will pop out. So that is one, I guess, slight negative that I'd have for him. But yeah, beyond that, I don't really have any negatives. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think. If you have anything that you would like changed on this figure that you don't like. But yeah, that's it for a review. I hope you enjoyed. Please keep in mind that tomorrow we'll have the Full Power Goku review. So if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe so you can check out that video as soon as it goes up on YouTube. And yeah, do like and comment below. And if you want to check out more photos of this guy, go to rockchala.com. You'll find a selection of images of this guy in different poses, along with 360 images too, and I'll chuck some of those at the end of this video too, so please enjoy. Cheers!